Boris Johnson says he's refusing to throw away the efforts of the British public by restarting the economy too quickly, the statement from the Prime Minister made on his first day back to work after battling the coronavirus. The French Prime Minister puts the final touches to a plan set to be unveiled tomorrow over how life will resume once the lockdown ends on the 11th of May. And more US states gear up to reopen this week, including Colorado and Minnesota. This as the jobless rate in the country jumps to 16%. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. First, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has resumed work after contracting the coronavirus. He's urging the country to keep going with the lockdown in place and says economic activity can only resume once the first phase is over. In recent weeks, Johnson's government has come under heavy fire for a series of missteps over its slow response to the pandemic and a lack of personal protective gear for the country's medical personnel. Luke Schrager reports.
Back on the job after 3 weeks recovering from COVID-19. Britain's Prime Minister paid tribute to the nation's effort to prevent transmission of the coronavirus and warned that social distancing and a stringent lockdown would endure.
We must also recognise the risk of a second spike, because that would mean not only a new wave of death and disease, but also an economic disaster. And we would be forced once again to slam on the brakes across the whole country and the whole economy.
In Johnson's absence, the government had come under increasing pressure over its response to the pandemic. A lack of protective equipment for healthcare workers, more than 20,000 dead, tardiness in instituting the nation's lockdown, and now division on how that same lockdown could be lifted. For now, the country is on course to see restrictions reviewed on May the 7th, as long as a downwards trend in numbers continues.
You can see that the benefit of social distancing is beginning to be reflected in the number of new cases determined by testing. I think it's highly likely that there will be different combinations of measures, some of which are in place at the moment, but others that you have heard about, such as more sophisticated track and tracing.
Authorities have said they'd ramp up testing to 100,000 people a day by the end of the month. However, with just days to go, capacity was running at just a third of that over the weekend.
Now, France reported a sharp fall in its coronavirus death toll on Sunday, with 242 deaths reported in a 24-hour period. The good news comes as Paris looks towards the light at the end of the tunnel. The Prime Minister, Edouard Philippe, is set to outline how life will resume once the lockdown ends on the 11th of May. Wasim Cornet reports.
This is the latest series of advice issued by the Scientific Council and given to the French government as it attempts to outline a strategy to end the lockdown. But for the first time, there's a disagreement. The council had recommended schools remain closed nationwide until September. So to open schools next month, there will be several restrictions. 1 meter at least between students, lunch served inside classrooms, and masks made compulsory for middle and high school students. Teachers' unions are already calling it a headache.
Ces préconisations sont assez complètes, mais elles me semblent difficilement applicables. Si on prend quelque chose de très précis, le nettoyage des salles et de tout ce qui est partie et ustensiles touchés par les élèves, les poignées de porte, etc., plusieurs fois par jour, ça suppose énormément de personnel.
Broadly speaking, the Scientific Council has said it approves of the promise to end the lockdown on May 11th. On that date, residents will possibly be allowed to resume travel between French regions by car or using public transportation. The council recommends making masks compulsory aboard buses, trams, and trains. But it also asks companies and businesses to make sure their employees continue to work from home as much as possible.
Je suis assez optimiste. Pourquoi? Parce que d'une part, les Français ont finalement bien respecté le confinement. Moi, je les en remercie. C'était pas facile, hein. Et finalement, ils l'ont globalement bien respecté. Donc je pense qu'ils vont être relativement prudents pendant cette zone de progressive de sortie du confinement.
On Monday, Prime Minister Edouard Philippe will head to the Élysée Palace to settle the final issues before presenting the official government plan to Parliament on Tuesday.
Now it's estimated that over 70 million people have been driven from their homes by war and unrest across the world. Up to 10 million of them live in refugee camps and informal settlements, and almost none have been tested for the coronavirus. One migrant camp over in Serbia has opened its doors to France 24 to show just how they're coping.
Under army surveillance, the migrant camp in Bujanovac hosts refugees from Afghanistan and Syria. Like all camps in Serbia, Bujanovac has been under strict quarantine since the COVID pandemic erupted. There's mandatory hand sanitizing at the entrance. This is just one of the many sanitary measures in the camp.
Oni ne mogu da izlaze u grad. I oni ovde imaju taj prostor, tako da smo maltene mi jedan mali grad u gradu.
In the canteen, hands must be sanitized. Meals are delivered every day by the army. The refugees clean the dormitories themselves twice a day. But also, to meet the demand, a refugee, a tailor by trade, makes masks for other camps in Serbia.
3 months ago, I listened and news have a problem in Serbia. I talked with commissariat I can do to help. I starting then morning, then 10 o'clock and finish 7 o'clock in the night.
Volunteers help the camp doctor. Besman was a nurse. Hussein was a member of the White Helmets in Syria. They show the room set aside for sick people.
هي غرفة مجهزة لعزل المشكوك بأمرهم أنهم مصابين، ارتفاع درجة حرارة، قياس ضغط. بنعزلهم بالغرفة لنشوف إذا هن مصابين أو لا.
Of the 264 migrants here, 3 have been put into isolation, but no one has tested positive for COVID.
Pa rezultat karantina je činjenica da mi nemamo ni jednog zaraženog niti obolelog migranta. Tako da smo jako ponosni na svoje rezultate.
Although the number of refugees on the Balkan route has gone up, the migrants in Serbia have so far escaped the epidemic.
Next, nearly 55,000 people have died from the coronavirus in the United States. The country has the highest death toll and the highest number of infections in the world. States including Colorado, Mississippi, Minnesota and Tennessee are set to end lockdown measures this week as the jobless rate in the United States jumps to 16%.
A balmy 30 degrees and people strolling along Huntington Beach. It looks like a normal day in Southern California. Social distancing seems to have gone out of the window this weekend as tens of thousands broke the statewide stay-at-home order to soak up the sun. Across the US, people are tiring of lockdown. Fearing a collapse in the economy, more and more governors are relaxing lockdown measures. Hardest hit New York has announced a tentative 2-phase easing, starting with manufacturers and then other businesses.
The pause is statewide until May 15th, right? Then we're going to leave 2 weeks between phases so we can monitor the effect of what we just did, right? Take an action, monitor.
Several other states have already eased lockdown measures, including Alaska and Oklahoma. Georgia, which has seen 1/5 of its workforce file for unemployment, has already reopened gyms, nail salons and barbershops. From Monday, residents will also be able to go to movie theaters and restaurants. Governors hope the easing of the lockdown will soften the economic blow of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's something that the federal government is looking to profit from as well. After his comments about injecting disinfectant to combat the virus sparked backlash, Donald Trump has questioned the use of his daily White House press briefings, where he has frequently clashed with scientific experts. His team is now reportedly seeking to change the narrative and focus on the efforts to jumpstart the economy. With the US election just over 6 months away, Trump's hopes for re-election could hang on just how quickly the economy bounces back.
Iceland's Prime Minister Katrin Jakobsdóttir has spoken to France 24. She explained how the coronavirus pandemic is under control through testing and tracing infections. Take a listen.
I would say that the pandemic is not over, but we have it under a relatively good control. We have from the beginning in February taken just over 46,000 tests, and we have used the method of tracing infections. So new infections now are very few. They have been from 0 up to 2 in the last few days. So yes, I think we are gaining control over the pandemic.
Now, New Zealand's Prime Minister says the country has won the battle against the spread of COVID-19. Jacinda Ardern making her statement as the country began its phased exit from lockdown. While the news is good, the Prime Minister is warning people not to be complacent. Catherine Viette reports.
With new coronavirus cases in single figures for the past week, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says the worst has been avoided.
There is no widespread undetected community transmission in New Zealand. We have won that battle, but we must remain vigilant if we're to keep it that way. That includes safely returning more New Zealanders to work, enabling more businesses to reopen, and allowing some of the recreational activities we've missed in the past 4 weeks.
Ardern credited the speedy implementation as some of the toughest restrictions in the world for the country's success in fighting the epidemic. Starting in March, when the country only had a few dozen cases, the government closed its borders, started a quarantine for people arriving in the country, and began an extensive testing and contact tracing operation. The government then closed all beaches, offices, schools, bars, and restaurants on March 26th. Now, officials have announced a gradual easing of some of those restrictions. Starting this week, many businesses will be allowed to reopen, including restaurants, but only for takeout. Cafes are preparing for customers with strict distancing measures marked off and plastic shields at counters.
So you download an app called Regular, which links to our point of sale service, and that'll just let you order. We'll make it. We'll see you through the window. Drop it out. Say your name, and you come forward.
Still, it's not a return to normal life, and the Prime Minister cautioned that might not come for some time. Mass gatherings are still banned, shopping centers remain closed, and the country's border remains sealed.
Now, top officials in South Korea are claiming North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is alive and well. He was last seen in public on the 11th of April, but Kim was a no-show for birthday celebrations for his grandfather, the country's founder, leading to rumors on the state of his health. Herna Gunke reports.
From claims he's in a vegetative state or even dead after undergoing surgery, to reports he's isolating due to the coronavirus pandemic, the rumor mill about Kim Jong-un's health is swirling. But neighboring South Korea weighed in firmly on the matter Monday, insisting the North Korean leader is alive and well.
김정은 위원장의 건강 이상설과 관련해서 확인해드릴 내용은 없고, 다만 이제 NSC 상임위원회에서도 밝혔듯이 현재 북한 내부에 특이 동향이 없음을 확인하였다라는 그 입장이 지금도 유효하다라는 말씀드리겠습니다.
South Korean officials maintain that Kim Jong-un has been staying at his compound in Wonsan since April 13th. Satellite images last week, which appeared to show his train parked at a Wonsan station, lent support to the claims. But for some North Korea experts, the information cited by Seoul is insufficient to prove something is not amiss.
Given how much talk there's been and how quiet both North Korea and China have been, my guess is there's probably something wrong with his health, which wouldn't be surprising, right? I mean, he's morbidly obese, he smokes, he's had gout in the past.
Kim Jong-un was last seen in public on April 11th. Speculation about his health first mounted when he failed to attend official celebrations for the country's biggest holiday on April 15th. The date marks the birth of Kim Il-sung, his grandfather and the founder of North Korea. Further fueling the rumors, a South Korean media outlet reported Kim Jong-un may have undergone cardiovascular surgery, though Seoul later cast doubt on the rumor, claiming the hospital in question does not have the capabilities to perform such operations.
That's it from me, from all of us on the team. Thank you very much for watching.